We are very happy to be here. It's our first time in Ukraine, and I think it's a good time because you are going through a difficult period in your history. So please take our being here and sharing with you some of our academic work as a sign of solidarity. Coming to the first topic, art. If we look at our situation in Europe today, sometimes seems to be something happening for an elite in our population. Some pictures are millions of dollars worth. We have galleries, we have museums of modern art. So there is a section of our society which is dealing with art, very often in an economic perspective, also in a historic perspective. Who was that painter? Who was Gauguin? Who was Van Gogh? Why did he cut off his ear, etc.? Our perspective in human ethology, in the effort to try and understand ourselves, the human condition, from a biological evolutionary perspective, is a little bit different. We are asking the question, why do people make art? Not to earn money, if you sell your painting at Sotheby's, but in our history, very early on in archaeology, we have art. Why? What was the purpose? What was the benefit? If we talk about evolutionary principles, then we have to ask, what's the advantage of something for the individual and for his family and for the group? So this is the kind of perspective I'm trying to utilize in this first talk. I'm very sorry that the light is a bit too bright for the pictures, but doesn't matter, you will probably see most of the important things. Animals come across as artful beings, many of them. And the birds are particularly interesting in a number of ways. First of all, they sing like us. They sing with a different kind of physiology like us, but they sing and they learn songs. Our cousins, the other primates, the chimpanzees, the gorillas, the bonobos, the orangutans, they never learn any melody in their lives. Some of them make sounds, but it's always the same. So we are very special primates. We are born to sing. And the voice of the females and the voice of the males are one octave apart and still the same sound. So this enables us to sing together, women and men. And we can assume that humans have done this very early on. So the birds, in their capacity to sing, are very interesting. But they have another capacity, especially when we look at the birds of paradise, the birds who are native to New Guinea, the island of New Guinea, and to Australia. They are so particularly extremely beautiful, also for us, for our eyes. In the discussion of art, we always hear one sentence. Art is in the eye of the beholder. Art happens in the eye of the person who looks at something. And from our point of view, that is completely wrong. Why? Because what you perceive with your retina is just the signal, the visual signal. And then you don't see with your retina. you see with your brain. In the brain, the visual signal is transformed and analyzed in very complicated ways. And at the end is a visual impression and an emotion, possibly. And these are elements which are millions of years old. So it's not in the individual eye. I find this painting beautiful and I don't, and this is ugly and I find it beautiful. This happens, indeed. But we must also assume that our visual perception is underlying certain evolved mechanisms, ways of analysis. And so these birds, especially when they dance, I should show you a film. Maybe some of you have seen that. These birds perform the most extraordinary ballet to impress the females, who look very unspectacular. Little brown females watching the male perform, and they only mate with the one whom they like. Who's the most spectacular, the most beautiful? So this brings us to the question, what is beauty? Is beauty something completely arbitrary? Or is beauty something which is found in other species as well? And we must assume that this is the case. And perhaps Marianne in her talk will have a chance to give you a list of elements which define beauty. Next one. The relatives of the birds of paradise are called bower birds. A bower is a little building of twigs and leaves, like a tunnel. And the job of the male is to lure the female into the bower and he will copulate with her. But to do that, in front of the bower, that bird plays Michelangelo. He makes art. These are pieces of art by the different species of bower birds. And the females look at that, and when they don't like it, they don't mate with that particular bird. So there is an evolution towards beauty in these species. And the important thing is, this beauty is not part of the body. In the bird of paradise, in the big animals like certain species, their antlers and their behavior impresses the females. Here, it is something extra-corporal. We humans make extra-corporal art. We produce something beautiful, and these birds are doing the same. And their objects of art are beautiful for our eyes as well. Next, please. Yeah. Next. There are a few attempts to understand art from an evolutionary point of view, from a quasi-biopsychological point of view. And this is one of the early books edited by Ingo Renzler and colleagues. Here are the authors, and it's called Beauty and the Brain. And there are a number of famous authors who have articles in there which try to explain why we perceive something as beautiful. Next one. Here is a book which we have edited, Im Spiegel der anderen, in the mirror of the others. That is a typical approach of human mythology. We try to understand ourselves, the human condition, by looking at the others. And in that mirror, we see ourselves. And here is a book about, I'm very sorry that it's so weak, the image, art as behavior. That's the topic of my talk. This is a book we edited some time ago. Next, please. Yeah. Here are some of the authors who are dealing with this kind of evolutionary approach. Very important is Ellen Dissanayake, who is the kind of, how shall we say, the nestor, the female nestor of this, and she calls it Homo aestheticus, and she calls the process of producing art artification. So she says Homo sapiens is an animal which produces art. Everything he or she makes, he tries or she tries to make beautiful. And that is interesting in archaeology. We find tools, and often these tools are beautified. And that is the interesting aspect. It's not just something which we have to have, because otherwise we will not produce food or make fire or something like that. We make it beautiful. This is part of our human nature. Then there are a number of other authors here, which I don't think you need to, that is an interesting one, The Mating Mind by Miller. I'll come to that aspect in a minute. Next one. Art in traditional societies often is connected to religion. And that is, of course, still the same today in our own world. If we look at the beautiful cathedrals in Kiev or in Lviv or in Munich or in Cologne, those buildings have been connected to religion, to religious service, to the expression of the acceptance that there is a greater being somewhere and we have to pay tribute. It is also a place where people meet. So religion in its function of a group mechanism. Here are some carved shields from New Guinea, which are typical for the south coast. They're called gope. This one is about 2.5 meters long, very impressive, made by stoneheads still. And their motifs and their way of being made are impressive for us. Some painters have been influenced by these, what was called primitive art. So these objects of art are in the context of religion. They belong to that particular ethnic group. They represent something, most cases spirits or ancestors. So here, beauty is in the function of, one of the functions of religion. Here we have an exhibition some time ago where objects of beauty are exposed. You see that young woman being decorated by a bird of paradise feathers. Next, please. Now, with regard to prehistory, we find, as you know, from the Aurignacian onwards, these Venus figurines. They're called Venus figurines, and many of them look like this one from Willendorf. Beautiful hairdo, so a piece of art. She was at the friseuse, to have this beautiful appearance, but no face. And the rest is just sheer sexuality. I know that the discussion in archaeology is very vivid, and many people say they are goddesses, they are fertility goddesses, or goddesses to facilitate birth, or something like that. I think, first of all, they are sexual images, but that is perhaps my the effect of my human brain. But it is, of course, a piece of art to make from ivory a little figure about a few centimeters tall to express something important, the power of female sexuality, the power of the females to give life. That, I think, is the essence of those images, which, as you know, were around everywhere in Europe. This one is one of the latest finds, the Venus from Hohlefels in the Swabian Alp, where there are a number of very important finds in archaeology. Some of the first musical instruments we ever found 40,000, 35,000 years ago, made of different material, of ivory, of the bone, of a bird, etc. So this was a very productive culture. Nicholas Conrad, the archaeologist in Tübingen, calls it the culture pump for Europe. Whether that is true or not, and whether there are somewhere other pumps, that's the question. But anyway, it's a very important place. And here you see what I was describing even more expressed. This lady has no head. She has a little place where you can put the thread through, and you can wear it perhaps as an amulet. So the important thing is the breasts and the vulva, the seat of power of the females, which is awesome for us human males, because we can hardly understand this, so different from us. Next one. This is a very different little figurine, the Venus of Brassenpuy in France. There we have a face which we could say is a beautiful, nice, little delicate face, and again, a very interesting hairdo. In New Guinea, in the island of New Guinea, people decorate themselves. Very often they also use color. They are not making paintings at all. They decorate their own skin, which is the canvas, we could say, or they decorate objects like you saw before, those shields. And the most valuable item in one of the cultures, actually in a number of cultures in the inland of New Guinea, are these shells. They are nasarius. And the interesting thing is, I'm sure Marianne will come to that the oldest beads the archaeologists have found close to 100,000 years ago, they were made, are nasarius. The ones from Blombos in South Africa, the ones from today's Morocco, Algeria, the ones from the Palestine area. This is a very interesting and puzzling problem. Why did our ancestors, 40,000, 50,000 and more years ago, use this particular snail from the ocean to make beads? And the Papuans in the island of New Guinea are doing the same. Marianne and I have been talking about this for hours. We have no solution, no answer to that question. Next one. There are so many beautiful shells in the ocean, which you could all use for decoration, and only very few are used. With the cowrie shell, we don't have it here. There, the answer is perhaps a little bit more clear. The cowrie shell looks like the vulva, the vagina of the woman, and it is used as that in many cultures. But the nasarius doesn't look like that at all. It's tiny, small, inconspicuous, and still it's such an important piece of body decoration. So to decorate the body is creating art. And why are we doing that? We can do that for various reasons, but I think the most important reason is that we want to be attractive. We want to be seen as somebody beautiful, whether a woman or a man. It is interesting that in New Guinea, go back one, this man has this beautiful Nasa headband. The men decorate themselves more lavishly, with more beautiful jewelry than the women. And that, from a biological point of view, is the right thing. Today, we have the opposite. If we go out and look at the roads of Kiev, The boulevards, the women are beautiful. The men, kind of. Industry tries to make us men put makeup and lipstick and fancy dresses. Most men don't go for that. But we have turned this around 180 degrees. And the question is why? There may be one reason. In these societies, if you want to marry a young, beautiful girl, you pay bride price. The person herself, this young woman, is so attractive, so beautiful, that you are willing to pay a lot of money or the equivalent to be married to her. So decorate yourself because she is choosing you. This is called female choice. The principle of choice in animals is females choose the male as their mate. And I think this we find in those traditional cultures. And then about 8,000 years ago, as you know, we had the so-called Neolithic revolution. Hunter-gathering stopped, more or less, and people produced food in their fields. And thereby, you had people who had lots of food, lots of cows, lots of sheep. You had a hierarchy, socioeconomic hierarchy developing. And now, for girls, it was very important to try and marry somebody high up. So we, as parents, give our girls what is called dowry. I don't know whether you are familiar with that word and what the Ukrainian word is for that, the Slavic word. The parents put precious things like linen for bedsheet, like silverware, like beautiful cups, etc., into a box, a wooden box usually, and that they give to their daughter. What's the Ukrainian word for that? That would be very interesting. What is it? Good. All right. So, in the course of history, this has changed, and now the women are the ones who are more beautiful than the men. Next one. Next one. Yeah. The usage of red ochre, of red color, siderit is the mineral, is very, very old in prehistory. Red is probably the most important color. We have particular receptors in the retina for red. It's a signal color. Our blood is red, and red is meaning powerful emotions, love, etc. And we find that in traditional cultures as well. Next one. So here, this is a slide from Mayan. You see in many, many cultures, in any culture in the world, people beautify themselves, sometimes in a very extraordinary, spectacular way. So it belongs to Homo sapiens to decorate ourselves. Next one. Before you saw a picture of that man with a NASA headband from 1975 in inland New Guinea, in West New Guinea. And now this is how the women look today. They buy necklaces in the town, which is 220 kilometers away, and the only way to go there is by airplane. So in 1974, they were living in the Stone Age, absolutely in the Stone Age. They had no metal, no writing, no school, no knowledge of the outside world. Today, they hop in an airplane like we hop in a taxi. They go to the coast, they buy some necklaces, and they bring them home and away. It's quite amazing, the dramatic change in that society. 1.5 generations made them from cannibals, from people who use stone axes, to members of the modern world. My next lecture will be about that a little bit more. Next one. Yeah, on the left you have a man from the Highlands. On the right you have a picture from the Trobriand Islands. Maybe you know the work of Bronislaw Malinowski, who was a Polish gentleman. He worked on the Trobriand Islands around 1912, 1914. He learned the Trobriand language, Kilivila. He was one of the first good ethnographers, very different from Margaret Mead and some others who never learned the language, local language. And they are a culture with an incredible sense of aestheticism. Beauty is very, very important for them. That is a canoe, a seagoing canoe, very big, 8-meter long sailing boat, which they are using to do the famous Kula expeditions in the sea. Next one. This is how the women look, very beautiful. They have a sense of, next one, a sense of makeup. Look at that right-hand side there. This asymmetric makeup, extraordinary. Next one. Yeah, now let's come, when we talk about art, it's not only visual art, it is also verbal art, of course. Here, this young man has died, and this is his aunt. And see, next one, see what she is singing. Don't have that music here, but the text. And perhaps you can read it. She says, "Ah, dearest, my kind heart, ah, why don't you sit? Why don't you sleep again in the men's house with your initiation comrades, from where dusk is lighting the sky in the top of the funeral tree? You have taken your seat out there, outside the village. Oh dear. You, the one who had such long, slim legs, ah, my beloved. All alone you have gone. By just yourself you have gone. Ah. You will from now on sit alone in the funeral tree. Why did you not, we did not show each other the cold shoulder, didn't we? Live so well together in one house, but still you are sitting there alone. Eh? Only recently you have built your house, you have built our house. Okay. Still you have left us. Oh, kind heart, my kind heart, say Edna, Edna. Edna was his name. You see that this lyric of that song is so easy for us to understand. In linguistics and sociology, we have a theory which is called Sapir-Whorf theory. It means that we form cognitive concepts in our brain via language. We linguistically code things, emotions, other things. And because languages are completely different from each other, so is the hypothesis, the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. We basically cannot understand the core context of other cultures because there's a wall and there's only a tiny little window through which we could perhaps look. This theory is so wrong, so totally, inexplicably wrong, that I don't know why it is still around. If you live with people like that, and if you learn the language, and if you stay close to them, you will realize they are exactly like us. So this universality is an important finding in our discipline, human ethology. And art and lyrics belong to it. Next one. Yeah, there are some others. This is a love song. I don't have enough time to go into it. It is extremely powerful. Extremely powerful. If Goethe had thought about these metaphors, which this lady who made the song is using, he would have been happy. Next one. Next one. Yeah. Okay, this is, I think, what I already expressed. Next one. This is the lady who made the song. So why is there a benefit on making art? Because the individual who creates a beautiful piece of lyric or who creates a beautiful, colorful body decoration or invents a beautiful story, he